First of all, I just want to sort of build on what my fellow representative in the Economic Growth Caucus mentioned, that not only is Pennsylvania 44th for economic growth, but we're also 47th when it comes to the best states regarding tax burden, so third worst. When you look at any of Pennsylvania's individual tax burdens, it doesn't necessarily look so bad, except for the corporate net income tax, which is third highest in the nation now. But the real damage is quite visible when you add them all up. When you put together the corporate net income tax and the personal income tax and the property tax and the inheritance tax and the gas tax, and you put all of these things together, our tax burden puts us as the third most heavily taxed state in the nation. So when you address that economic growth, we're not going to have economic growth until we start to attack that overwhelming tax burden. When businesses we had this discussion just at our Economic Growth Caucus meeting yesterday, 2 days ago. These days are kind of blurring together. We met with some of the governor's people to say, look, what can we get done here? Like, we realize the governor isn't necessarily going to be friendly to a lot of the policies we support, but what can we get done? You know, the 9.99% corporate net income tax is something that I think we can all agree is way too high and is going to be a deterrent to a large number of businesses that, when considering where to relocate, are going to check Pennsylvania off the list first because of that. That's just going to push them right out of there. A couple of things that we've been working on. Obviously, the CNI cut is one that we're trying to work through. Some of the pushback we get is that a single CNI point cut is $350 million out of the state budget. And that is a very large number to make up for. But what needs to be understood widely is that will be a very short-term loss lead for a long-term growth. So if we are cutting that corporate net income tax, let's say we cut it 2 points, that's what we're trying to get done for the next year. Sure, that might leave a $700 million hole initially, but the businesses that will then just say, hey, you know what, Pennsylvania is starting to get their act together, they're starting to move in the right direction and choose to relocate here, we're going to broaden the tax base, we're going to see those monies come back to us. But until we start with that, we're not going to see that economic growth come back. And something that I think is also worth addressing is the comments, and I got a couple of these during my campaign, which is very fresh in my mind, that talking so much about the corporate net income tax sounds like a giveaway to corporations and businesses. And what I cannot stress enough, the personal income tax in Pennsylvania is 3.07%. The corporate net income tax is 9.99. Our businesses are already overtaxed, and our businesses are the ones providing those jobs in the first place. So if our businesses aren't allowed to thrive, we won't even have the jobs here at all. I love to use the gas industry as a perfect example, where not only do many of them pay the CNI, but then they also have the impact fees that they have to pay on top of that. And now the governor also wants to impose a severance tax. And he likes to point out that, well, Texas has a severance tax. Why shouldn't we? Well, Texas doesn't have an impact fee, and Texas's corporate net income tax is a big fat zero. So trying to compare those two makes no sense. And until we create a more business-friendly environment, we're not going to see Pennsylvania take the place that it could.